BBC GETTYThe BBC is encouraging the cutting of old shows and formats. The National Audit Office now said the review of the tendering process for programmes recommended retiring more shows where this made sense from an audience point of view. Meanwhile, the now said the corporation faced a number of important challenges and risks, highlighting the success of streaming services such as Netflix and Amazon Prime as evidence that audiences were increasingly accessing content digitally. According to the report, the BBC could lose the ability to make programmes in a certain genre should its commercial operation, BBC Studios, be unsuccessful in commissions too frequently. The BBC Studios division was set up in April 2017 and competes with independent companies for tenders to create programmes, such as A Question of Sport, Holby City, Doctors, and Songs of Praise. GETTYThe BBC's success is dependent on its commercial arms making money. Studios could also lose work if BBC PSB, Public Service Broadcasting, decides to retire old formats. The likelihood of this happening increased in November 2017 when an internal PSB review of the tendering process for recommissioning existing programs. Our National Audit Office, it said, in addition to losing programs in open competition, studios could also lose work if BBC PSB, Public Service Broadcasting, decides to retire old formats. The likelihood of this happening increased in November 2017 when an internal PSB review of the tendering process for recommissioning existing programs recommended retiring more shows where this made sense from an audience point of view. In order to free up slots for new ideas, the BBC's commercial wing generated revenue of £1.2 billion in 2016-17 for the corporation, a figure considered to be broadly stable, while only one of its subsidiaries has made profit throughout the last 5 years. The financial watchdog said the BBC had to strike the right balance when developing new programming and formats, stating, "It will need to manage risk carefully to ensure that the funds it invests in such projects have the greatest impact possible in a crowded marketplace." March 16, 2016, the old BBC television centre to be converted into swanky flats now. Head Sir Amias Moore said, "The BBC's expanding commercial activities are undertaken on behalf of licence fee payers and exploit the significant assets that licence fee payers have paid for. The public interest in holding the BBC to account for these activities is therefore clear. Granting the now access to the commercial subsidiaries for the first time is an important step in improving the transparency of the BBC's operations worldwide, which accounts for 90% of the BBC's commercial revenue from the sale of TV contents and formats internationally, turned in an after-tax profit of £40.4 million in 2016-2017. This was less than a third of the £127.6 million it made in profits in 2012-2013 due to two large one-off costs, including the write-off of £12.5 million following the closure of BBC Store. BBC production on Songs of Praise is now offered out to tender and the BBC must compete worldwide. Made £450 million of direct payments for programmes shown on the BBC's PSB outlets between 2012 and 2017. It also paid dividends of £423 million, of which £312 million went to supplement licence fee income in the PSB divisions, and retained £111 million in its commercial reserves. The bulk of BBC funding, £3.8 billion, comes via the licence fee. A BBC spokesman said, "Over the past 5 years, BBC Worldwide alone has generated almost £1 billion for programmes and services for UK licence fee payers, ensuring even better value for money. Given the financial challenges facing the BBC, maximising our commercial revenue will continue to be vital."